Welcome back to another episode of Indie Choice Picks. I am your host, Will at Heroic Studios, and today I'm bringing to you a very innovative concept, the creator of Jack Irons' Steel Cowboy. Now, I read issue 1, and it's a very interesting concept that this artist and creator has come up with. So sit back and relax. Let me bring to you the creator of Jack Irons, the Steel Cowboy. Enjoy. Hey, Cody, thank you for coming on the show. I know I've been following your work for a little while now, and I kind of like your concept. So before we dive into your work, what I'm going to do is open the floor up to you. Just kind of tell the audience a little about yourself, about your character, and how you came up with the idea.
Oh, that's great. Hi, folks. I'm Cody Fernandez. I'm the creator of Jack Irons, the Steel Cowboy, and trying to get a kind of a comic studio together called Ironverse Comics.
Cool, cool.
Uh, we've let's see. Jack Irons is a weird Western tale. It's about a man who remembers his past lives, but in his
Okay.
current one, he's immortal. So
Huh.
he's stuck with this burden of all these horrible memories and being different people, but he can't end it or get out of it except to live through it. That is kind of the character I put into a weird Western framework. So it comes off as, I think on Twitter, to sum it up, I sometimes do Brave Star meets Samurai Jack, or I do like a Fallout meets Samurai Jack. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a post-apocalyptic universe. Issue 2, which we're currently working on, and hopefully releases this month. We're real grinding at it, and I think we're going to get it. It introduces you more to the world. But the free-to-read issue number 1 is out on TAPAS.
Mm-hmm.
The links will be somewhere eventually. But we also released Cactus Coyote, another title there. But issue number 1, we ran a campaign last year during the summer I did for a really just to see if I can get issue number 2 made. I never had funding. Issue number 1 was done on the cheap and out of just damn fine luck, blessings, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
fate. But it's so that was a heck of a surprise that I found a publisher to be able to print the books and who wanted to invest on doing that for our backers. And I was able to color both issues, which I wasn't expecting, and color just adds so much to our world and to the books. It's really just I feel so blessed to have been able to take part in this and to see my ideas and our team's just amazing work come to fruition, and hoping to continue to be able to do it for as long as folks enjoy what we're doing.
That's cool. That's cool. So, in your explanation earlier, you said that it is a post-apocalyptic universe, not a post-apocalyptic Earth. We're saying that, I don't know, post-Thanos snap universe. Why? Why? What happened with the universe to where it's in a post-apocalyptic state?
Oh, well, that's what binds all our titles together are the 4 main villains of Ironverse Comics. People instantly recognize them as they should be, as the 4 horsemen. But within the universe, they're called many different things. Their concept is, once a world manifests a certain amount of suffering, for instance, there's the 4. There's famine, plague, war, and death.
Mm-hmm.
So if your planet becomes super warmongery and you get to that point, you'll eventually manifest a physical representation of what you're doing, and then it just spurs it.
Okay.
In space, it can take over worlds and form empires, and that's where Jack Irons is kind of, you're just seeing a small glimpse of what's going on everywhere. This is just what happened to Earth with these 4, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a universe of it. And Cactus Coyote is where it takes over in space, and you kind of see more of what the actual galactic government and all that is doing to keep any form of just existence going.
I got you. Now, I read your first issue, and it was a little bit confusing because of you didn't drop the premise, but now that you're explaining who he is exactly. He's actually remembering his past life. Now, is there any type of like magic in there, or is he like a cyborg who had like his consciousness transferred? How is he able to remember his past lives? And if you can't explain it because it's like one of those story plot twists, that's fine. You don't have to, but you can give me just a little snippet of how Jack is able to remember his past lives. That'd be great.
Well, well, yeah, I get that. There's not really a convention to do it. The books, you're going to, it's a big part that you keep getting these snippets of his memory, because the whole framework of his series in particular, this isn't any of the other series, is Jack, what he could be just bullshitting at a bar. So I
Yeah.
wanted the reader to feel like, what? So I wanted that
Well, I
sense.
definitely did the what because I had no
Yep.
idea what was going on.
Yeah, exactly. And I was hoping you at least still enjoyed the ride to want to keep seeing where he's trying to
Oh
take
yeah,
you.
most definitely. Yeah,
Potential drunken ramblings.
yeah. I wanted to know where this guy came from. Like
Yeah.
he went from like the old west to like ancient Greece, and I'm like, well, how old is this guy? And like, where in the future does this take place? You know, was he like at one point killed and then put back together with cyborg parts, and now we're just looking at his like post? But that was my big question: is like, how is this guy? Like, how old is Jack Irons in terms of him being a cyborg versus him being a normal human? That was my
Well, he
big
is
question.
not a cyborg, for
Okay.
one. I would consider him more a Wolverine.
Oh, okay, that
But
makes
it's
sense.
not a mutant factor. It's not genetic. It is more a like my villains. It's a fabric of what makes up the Ironverse.
Okay, okay, that
It's
makes
like
sense.
a universal law almost.
So
And so
when you say he's remembering his past life, he's not necessarily like died and reincarnated. He just have this insane Wolverine factor where he never really dies, but he still kind of recalls.
no, I
Yeah.
bridged both those concepts that we're talking about. That's what Jack is.
Okay.
Jack is this the in issue one, especially in the color, it's very subtle. It's not spoken. You
Mm-hmm.
can see the moment that a decision is made that sticks Jack in his cowboy form for eternity.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's not as Jack in his cowboy form that makes this choice. It's one of his past lives. And
Hmm.
that is supposed to be kind of an echo that it's an eternal ancestral regret. It's something that he can't run away from, that he himself didn't do, but that's there
Okay. So
in his life, and he's stuck with, and he can't escape. And there's thousands of years of that memory. But he himself he's about 275 years old.
okay,
So
okay.
that's why it kind of bridges both.
That makes sense. So I'm trying to share screens really quick. So we can show the audience. But I remember the one that you sent me was in color, but now that I'm looking on Tapas, it's all in black and white. So I couldn't find the one that was in color per se. I was only able to find the link you sent me a few minutes ago on Twitter, in which you have the black and white here. So this is one of his first memories right here, where I guess his mother is murdered by I don't know who the.
So that's a collage of memories right there, and it's my goal with those pages were to get the reader into his mind real quick, that there's a lot going on.
Yeah, because it looks like he's really been through
And
a
then
lot
he
of shit.
explains where he is now in this page, page 3, just to give you a taste with the fun cinematic flair of the horse-drawn motorcycle.
That's pretty cool. Like I saw that and I was like this is something that's like a little bit futuristic because like you got a motorcycle and then you have him being pulled by two mechanical horses. I'm like, that's a little redundant, but a pretty cool concept when you think about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot to those horses I hope to explain, and it won't always be just a motorcycle. It's a very Mad Max kind of universe.
I got you. Now, the thing that drew me to your comic was, I remember was scrolling on Twitter and I came across your Four Horsemen, and you kind of explained that a little bit. When do we actually get to see these Four Horsemen? Is it later on in issue 2, issue 3, or is that like far later on down the road?
Well, they're omnipresent. Their influence is felt everywhere in the Ironverse. Once again, they're the binding glue. But you first really see them like that image that's probably been seen by a lot of anyone who's already followed me. The one you're speaking of, that's about their first appearance in issue 2.
Okay, okay, makes
So,
sense.
and again, the first three issues, the first issue explains his mind and his character. Second one explains his world and then gets into his story. And the third one's his history. I'm hoping to get to the third issue is going to be his history and then binding it to the story.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot to work on. The issues were written consecutively. I wrote it as a graphic novel, so breaking it up has its problems, but it also
Yeah.
adds to the desire to continue reading.
Yeah. Because I've had to break up my graphic novels too, because you kind of ask the question, well, where's a good cutoff point between part one and part two? Like you don't really know when to do that because you wrote it as one big story. There is no like to be continued here because it won't make sense going forward. Yeah, I get that. I get that 100%. So
Yeah.
you said this takes place roughly about 275 years in the future. This scene right here, I'm assuming that this isn't Jack, is it? This kid right here?
It's one of Jack's memories. Yeah, it's not Jack himself. This is. I didn't put captions on it because I really didn't want to get too tight into history. So it's a very loose interpretation of history. This is supposed to be around our first civilizations in Sumeria, Babylon, and such.
I got you. So who is Jack in this memory? Is he the one doing the killing right here?
No, he's the child who gets killed at the end.
Oh, okay. So the kid right
Yeah.
here that's screaming and he says, "No, okay, I got you." So that's what I was kind of taking away from this story. I was like, he was either going to be the guy doing the killing or he was the kid. So, um, eventually this kid dies. This kid right here is Jack. He dies. How does he necessarily come back over and over again? Is it like a healing factor or what? What's the case?
Well, I went from it from the Buddhist Hindu interpretation of reincarnation. So
Okay.
it's a consistent force, just like it would be the four horsemen are a consistent force. That Jack is reincarnated again and again, and then eventually remembers some lives. It's
Okay.
just eventually he's stuck in a body, and that does happen this issue. But again, I don't really. I tried to leave it subtle, so I'm hoping people catch it in the colored version the exact moment it happens.
Yeah, I
But
caught it immediately because I was like, okay, this guy must be some type of reincarnated being. So he reincarnates and has the same body as his previous life. Is that correct?
no, he could be any race, gender, anything like that. I've even toyed with the idea down the line of there being well, it's a lot down the line. I don't want to go that far, but
Okay.
basically it would have no lines like that. It's just an experience. It's a life. It's a memory, and he's
Okay.
always, with the amount he has, he's always uncovering new ones. And I don't want to limit any potential future down the line of what those new memories could be.
Okay. Now, is Jack the only one who can do this? Is he like the only one in your Ironverse who can do this, or is that an ability that everyone in the Ironverse has?
So Jack alone is the only one who's dealt with these kind of experiences. There might be some alien races that have. There might be a few different maybe people on Earth who have and would believe him, but the vast majority, it's just bullshit. So,
Okay.
yeah, even in space, it would be. There's an alien race called the Glore that kind of make a consistent. Kind of a comedic appearance throughout the books, and they like Jack a lot because of how he heals like them. There's things like
Okay.
that there's connections throughout the universe that bind everything together. And yeah, Jack is part of that, but it's unique. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then after he gets, he dies in ancient Samaria, like you said, it looks like we're in a scene where he's in ancient Greece or something like that, and he kills the prince of ancient Greece, and now his father wants him dead. And I'm assuming that this right here, this scene, is the second time he dies.
Well, it could be the second. I wouldn't put again. I don't want to put numbers, but it's
Okay.
the second one I wanted to present, where it's
Okay.
the first one you see him as an innocent kid, and there's nothing he could do, and he was just a victim of circumstances at that time. This one, it's kind of similar. He's just doing what he thinks is right, but he does it too hard, and
Yes, and he
pays
ends
the
up killing
price.
this guy who's actually the prince of wherever civilization he's currently.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. See, I like the artwork. I like the ink. I'm not big on inking, and when I say that, I'm not big on like inking myself. I actually outsource it. So I think it goes to I think it goes with every artist whenever you're doing any part to put together a comic book. you already have it mapped out in your head how you're going to draw a certain scene, how you're going to pencil it, how you're going to ink it, color it, on and on. My brain doesn't work with inking just yet, so I'm looking at your inks and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, those aren't mine. So our artist for
Uh-huh.
Jack Irons in particular is Maximiliano Dallo.
Mm-hmm.
I have a fun story how I met him when I was so I was younger. Jack Irons came to be out of a lot of teen angst and not feeling great with my life circumstances. So lost myself in a world darker than my own. But anywho, I eventually decided to outsource. I got a little bit of capital I had sitting around and decided it was time to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no experience, no idea hiring an artist, nothing like that. So I just I tried a bunch of channels, got a couple answers, a lot of flakes, honestly, a lot more than I expected.
Yeah, that
But
happens
then
a
I
lot.
tried Craigslist for the hell of it,
Really,
right,
Craigslist.
right. And so yeah, I get an email back from him, and he happened to be in my hometown from then. Crazy thing is, though, he's from Argentina, so he just happened to be in my
Oh man,
hometown
this
at that
must be
time.
like a trend because it's like all the people that I've talked to, and I've done about maybe 10 interviews since I started this show.
Yeah.
Everyone's art team is from another country. Like none of them are like American citizens. They're all from another
No.
country. Even my team, they're
Yeah.
from another country. They're from the Philippines, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing in these other countries, but they must not have a lot going on because their art is freaking fantastic.
So that's the thing. I had another meeting with him in McDonald's just last month, and because he happened to be once again in town.
Hmm.
But that's what he was saying. We were talking about the industry and how much bullshit there is in the U.S. industry, and then he just kind of looks at me and is like, "Yeah, but you have an industry."
Hmm.
He teaches art there to make ends meet. There's no illustration there in Argentina to speak of for paid work. So
Yeah.
it really is these outside countries that really there's amazing talents that need the work because their country literally cannot support their talent.
Yeah, and if like my artist, I wish I can pay him more, to be honest. But we are
Oh
artists. We're starving artists. We're on a budget, but it's kind of works out in both of our favors because my artist is from the Philippines, and I can pay him $10 to ink a page, and over there it goes a long way. Like
yeah,
it goes a very long way. So like I want to pay him more. And I will end up. I do usually give him bonuses and stuff to, for saying,
yeah,
you did a great job, buddy. Here's an extra little extra to help you out, you and your family.
yeah,
It's great. So it works out both ways. A little guilt here, but it's like if you try to hire an artist who is from the States, man, they want like anywhere from $40 to $100 to ink a single page. I'm like, man, I don't have that kind of money to have a 60 page graphic novel, and you want $40 to ink a page. Like that's gonna put me in a hole.
yeah. To just ink, that's
Yeah.
pretty nuts. But yeah, even for American rates, if you go and look at the quote unquote professional indie rates, they're quite atrocious,
Yeah, I'm
honestly.
like, you're a starving artist. I'm a starving artist. You're gonna be starving right along with me, bro. Like, you better
Yeah,
pack up the
until
ramen.
until you can make some kind of hit, or until you
Yeah.
can, and my bit is the joy of the art. I absolutely the trials and the speed bumps really keep me going. Well, they don't keep me going, but the the work gets me through them way easier than expected.
Yeah.
When I get in a penciled and inked page from Maxi, it makes my day.
Yeah. Like whenever my artist
Art
sends me,
everywhere.
like, I see an email saying, new email from Ronell Reyes, who's the name of my artist. I just get
Yeah,
so excited. I'm like, what did you do now? I can't wait to see
yeah.
this.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I love that passion. I love working with that and being able to spread it and just that's fun. I
Yeah.
like fun.
It's
Most
a lot
people
of fun.
do.
It's
It's
a
just
lot of fun when you could just
yeah,
you gave them a page and you thought that your pencils were dope. You're like, you thought your pencils were the shit, right? And then you get that
yeah,
ink back from that artist and you're like, man, my pencils weren't shit, dude. This dude made it look like legit. I don't even want to color it because it's that good. I just want to leave it black and white.
Oh yeah, I was told a lot of the by a lot of the people in Team Ironverse comics when we were starting to show the inked pages, the more emotional scenes in Jack Irons 2, and they're like, you better not ruin that with your words.
Yeah.
That could just be quiet.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, don't worry, guys, I got it. No, I'm pretty sure we
I
got
know
it.
a lot of artists too who like when they do their pencils, the traditional way is when you're doing your draft and then you add your pencils, you're supposed to add where the speech bubbles are supposed to go. And I noticed that a lot of indie artists these days, including myself, I don't do that. I don't add in the
Yep.
speech bubbles. I do that when I'm starting to letter. That's
Yep.
when I do it. I don't add it in, but you know, you have the professionals who used to be in the industry with DC and Marvel say, you know, you need to add your speech bubbles in first. I'm like, I kind of don't want to because it kind of takes away from the overall picture of the art, you know?
Yeah, well, I like that too. I like having the fresh blank inks on one.
Mm-hmm.
I like having the fresh colors on another, and then the finished comic page. I
Mm-hmm.
like having all three just in case. And honestly, with the art, especially once a colorist gets to it, it can really just pop without any of the information. And who knows what that's, just for an aesthetic value. I like having that piece of art around.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And you
this,
can show your audience like from
yeah.
the steps from like the draft, the pencils, the ink, and then you add the color, and then finally you add the letters. You can post that up on social media, and people who are following your work, they can see how you from where you started to where you've ended up with the final page with the letters and captions, sound effects, and stuff like that. And I think that's cool because there's a lot of people out there who think comics are just like you draw like this from the start and you just go for it. I'm like, no, there's a huge amount of time. Like before you can even start drawing, you need a script, and then from the script, you need your drafts and your pencils, and you kind of need your reference angles and stuff. There's a lot of work to go from just like the words on a page for your story to just your inks. We're not even talking about colored letters and sound effects. We're just talking about the freaking.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So.
Yeah. So what I did with Jack, our process would be I did my scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get my scripts to Maxie. Maxie does a few concepts. Mostly I just let him run because his visual eye is so much better than anything.
Yeah, and that's what you do. I mean, these people
Yeah.
that you hire, they know exactly what they're doing. Same with my artist. He gets a concept after reading a page. I said, show me what you can do with this. I don't even care. I don't have any preferences. Whatever you do, I'm going to like it anyway, unless, you do something.
Yeah, with you do the pencils, which I'm sure helps define it a little bit more to your vision.
Yeah, I do the pencils. I do the drafts first, and then I do the pencils. And then for my pencils, my artist automatically knows what's going on. So all he does is inks it. He may change a little bit, or I may leave something blank, and I would tell him, hey, in this cell, I need you to do this, and this, because I didn't know what to do. And usually he has a mind already mapped out to where he can look at that scene and sort of already begin to draw out what he needs to do. And I trust him enough to take a scene that I have no clue what to do with and draw it up for me.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I take it one step further. So my script is bullshit. He literally takes it, reads it, kind of gets the gist of my story. I kind of I do lay out panel numbers, but he can play with those, change them, add them, combine them, whatever the hell he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically at the end of these processes, after it gets back from him with the inks, and after he gets, well, no, actually it's just after he gets done with the inks, I take it back and then I write to his pages. I letter his pages with my junk.
Yeah, I used to do that. I used to do that too. Like with the one that I'm working on now, I started drawing what I felt was going to happen in the first few pages. Whatever was up here, that's what I drew, and I kind of kept it up in my head and just kind of went, because it's easy when you draw everything that you need to do that you see in your head. When it comes to scripting, you can look back at your page and be like, oh yeah, such and such said this. This is what's happening over here. This is what's happening down here. You already know what it is, but to kind of be more of a professional in this industry, I started writing scripts and started doing it the traditional way, even though that's a little bit more
defined edition. There's two schools. There's the DC school and the Marvel school.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Mine's a modified Marvel.
Yeah.
So yeah. So are you talking? You do it DC style with a script?
I honestly, I just started writing a script after 60 pages of drawing. Literally.
Oh, okay.
So I usually draw
so
what I want to on how to convey the story first before I started with a script. I used it just like, yeah, we're gonna start this thing like this, and I had it mapped out in my head, and I have it written down anywhere. It was all in my head, and that's how I got started for about 60 pages. And then I figured, like, if I wanted to hire more artists, what I would do is write the script and then have them kind of map it out. But I probably won't do that.
Ah,
I'll
gotcha.
probably just continue what the method I'm doing, because it looks great so far, and it's not really much of a confusion when it comes down to trying to interpret what's going on in each cell.
Ah, understood. Well, right on. Yeah, it's just one thing I like to convey, just as a younger guy and a newbie
Yeah,
jumping into
we're all
it.
newbies. I'm a noob still.
Yeah, yeah, jumping into the comic industry is don't put too many lines on how you're going to get your art done.
Yeah.
Do it how you can as an individual, because there's a lot of professionals and there's a lot of other people who tell you you can't do it this way. And sure, in their perspective, that could be 100% true. They're not
Hmm.
lying to you,
But at the end of the day,
but
it's
that
your art.
perspective, exactly, and that perspective is limited
Yeah. Yeah,
to
like
their own
I've
experience.
seen a
Like
lot
yours.
of people who have drawn comics in a different sort of fashion, to where, they have their own method. And I'm like, whatever method works for you, that's great. Like, go ahead and do it, whatever's easier for you. Because to me personally, there's not anything written in stone that you have to do a comic by the steps. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, I draw certain scenes because that's the way I envision the scenes. But when I give it to my artist and he inks it, I look at it and I go, huh, I never thought to have done that scene that way. It's different.
Yeah.
You never know what kind of perspective you're going to gain. Like, I give my artist, my ink artist, a bit of range of freedom, because I don't want to be told like what to do, how to do an ink, stuff like that. Like, this is the way it needs to be, otherwise it's not going to be great. No, I'm not down with that. If you are creative enough to take a scene and say, I think it'll look better this way, and it actually looks better that way, 100%, dude, do whatever you want, but just make
Yeah.
sure you're still conveying a story that
Yes.
matches what I'm telling you, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that comes down to, I was lucky enough, I caught one of J.M. DeMatis's tweets one of these days, talking about artist writer chemistry being one of the, if not the only thing you need to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 100% with that. Because that's the comics don't have to be a collaborative art. There's many talented single artists who do the lettering, the writing, the coloring,
Mm-hmm.
the drawing. But there's a space in comics for collaboration that's not in all art forms. There's
Mm-hmm.
something unique about the simplicity of it, because there's collaboration in video games, there's collaboration in things like that, but the simplicity of comics, that you're all for one very focused rendered goal of these images and this story, instead of mechanics and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, yeah.
but
Going
but
by the
um
book and all that.
but it allows for something greater than the sum of its parts to come out, if you allow your team and your project to flourish without being heavy-handed on restricting what can be done.
Yeah, it all comes down, in my opinion, to the level of creativity you're willing to put out. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't really get past their script, and I think that's what stops a lot of people. Is you write the script and then you get brain freeze. You can't envision what to see next, but you have all these other scenes that you know how it's going to happen, and you want to get started drawing those scenes, but you're stopped because you don't know what comes next in your script. I tell artists, like, go out and start drawing what you need to draw. And like making a movie, how movies are shot out of order in accordance with the script, do it that way. Get these things out of your head before one day you forget what you were going to draw. Like, get them out of your head, draw them on paper, just get that page done, and then go back and forth. And then a lot of comic book artists right now are all self-taught. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think anyone is going to school for illustration or animation or anything like that. You can get on YouTube and look up how to work Photoshop and the steps to becoming a comic book artist, and you find dozens of videos to where you can do that. And that's how I learned. I learned how to draw comics by kicking back on the couch watching YouTube videos all day.
Yeah, that's some of the wonders how you and I are talking right here. We're in a very good time to get yourself out there and get your work out there.
Most
um,
definitely.
and that's very inspiring, but it can also be very intimidating.
Yeah.
And so because it's a sea, there's so much.
Yeah.
It's impossible to know every bit of your competition, for instance, and some people don't You know, they can't put away that fear just to put themselves out there. And I don't
Yeah.
blame them. It's a scary thought.
I say this to every artist: like you don't want to be like that guy, because I heard if you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably the dumbest person in the room if you think you know everything. So even if you look at some of my pages that I post, they look great, like they're fantastic according to the audience. According to me, it's like, okay, what can I do better? Like there's artists
Yeah.
out there who have been in the industry for 40, 50 years,
Yeah.
and they give out invite advice like, put your vanishing point over here instead of putting it right here, and you'll see the difference. I'm always learning, and I tell artists, like, you don't want to act like you're the shit, and not just in comics but in everything. Writing a book, doing a comic book, writing a movie, drawing, whatever it is you're doing, you don't want to be like coming off as you're the shit, because there's always going to be that one person out there who's done it more than you, who's willing to teach you a new way of doing something, and you're totally just going to like
Yeah,
not even.
arrogance can put people off, and either you'll miss it or they won't even try.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
feel honored when someone points out something to me. He's like, hey, have you thought about doing something this way? And I'll be like, I never thought of that. Maybe I'll keep that in mind for next time I do a similar thing like this. And you're constantly learning, because you're not being an arrogant dick. And I've met a lot of arrogant dicks on Twitter and social media, Facebook, to where I'm like, you ever try doing it that way? And they would just completely snap and just bite your head off for no reason. And I'm like, whoa, dude, like, I'm just giving I'm just giving my advice. You don't have to take it, but me personally speaking, this is how I would do this particular scene, because you get a different vantage point and a different angle, and you can kind of convey what you're trying to say a little bit more. It's you
Yeah,
gotta.
you don't want to close off your mind and your heart to the art.
Yeah,
And
I get it. Like
a lot
some
of
of these
people are
stories.
going to have a difficult time doing that, because art is so very, very personal. And so
Yes.
when you quote unquote criticize, but even when you're just trying to be helpful, some people, for instance, will really enjoy your work, but see something they can improve.
Yeah. And the
And so
thing
that's
about
what they
art.
tried to tell you. There's like, oh, that would help.
Yeah, and the thing about art is like,
Yeah.
art is always getting improved. There's always like, if there's infinite ways to do a scene. Like this scene, for example, right here, you could have drawn your main character right here and drew the mob kind of closing in on his character. Like you could have done a dozen different things with this scene, but it all comes down to what feels good to you as an artist. But don't completely close off people who've been drawing for 30, 40 years, because they may come with some knowledge that they want to drop to you, because they probably see you as a good protege or something like that, and they're willing to teach. And you don't get a lot of that these days. You don't get a lot of people just stopping what they're doing from day to day to give you pointers like on anything. Like it's really hard getting attention from people, especially in social media, who are willing to put their pencil down, look at something you drew, and say, maybe you should look at that. And people should take more value to that, because again, there's artists who have been drawing for years and they just know so much. And if they're willing to stop what they're doing, especially when we're just so accustomed to just scrolling through everything, right?
Yeah.
They're willing to just stop and say, have you thought about this? That is valuable information and knowledge that everyone should take into account, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, in particular of the industry vets, there's no question. I think everybody in comics wants comics to succeed, and I
Mm-hmm.
think everybody in comics wants to thinks that by doing by the way to do that to succeed is better books. And how do you get better
Mm-hmm.
books? Is you continue to make books, and you look at what your peers are doing, and you take the good, and you start learning what you're doing wrong, and you start learning what you do really well, and you accentuate that.
Mm-hmm.
It's never ending learning, and that's very true. This is my first year, and I've had to figure out. I've lettered a manga. That was the first time I did that. That was a trip. Put that out yesterday. Yeah, I'm a terrible letterer, so at least it looks like a fan translation of a manga. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. And then there's I had to learn how to work with colorists, and I lost a colorist between issue 1 and issue 2 of Jack. So
Mm-hmm.
finding another one that could fit was a hell of a thing. It was a long time. It stalled the campaign. Having to learn about dealing with shipping, having to deal with marketing, and then there's just the overarching politics of being in the comic book industry
Yes.
and
Yes.
navigating it.
Yes.
And it's endless. There's no reason not to be humble.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there that just think that, people like you and me and the entire comic book community, oh, they just sit down and draw all day. No, there's a lot more to it than just sitting down and drawing all day. Like, honestly, I wish that I could come home and draw. Like,
Oh, I hear that from so many. You can't live off of art at the
no.
moment. It's very, very difficult,
Mm-hmm.
if at all likely. And so of course all of these people are tending to do it as because they love it.
Yeah, they love
Oh,
it.
they want to do it, and they can't do it a lot of the time, like you're saying, because you got other things you have to do to live.
Yeah, there's not only that, but there's also, like, if you're working on a comic book, there's a lot more to working on your story before you're drawing. Like, there's so much. You have to hire people. You have to make sure they're good for their job. Right
Yeah.
along, if you're doing it traditional way, you have to make sure your script is on point. You got to make sure that. To me, I don't really worry about typos because I'm the only one that's reading it, so I'm the only one that knows exactly what's going on in the scene. So I kind of ignore typos, but you read through your script to make sure it's good, to make sure those plot elements are there and those twists and all that stuff is there. Like, before anybody picks up a pencil, there's a lot that goes into making sure that the story makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's true. It's looked down as something easy and fun, and most it's still with the stigma, even with Vertigo and with all the gore, blood, guts, and sex in comics,
Mm-hmm.
they still think it's for kids, and so it's very difficult. That'll change. That stigma might change. I know the MCU kind of almost supports it by giving a different outlet for the same things,
Yeah,
but the main fact is that you gotta just you gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah,
Um,
it's your story.
and
You have to write it the
yeah,
way you want to write it.
and then there's just the marketing, and there's the attention grabbing. For instance, I wouldn't want to do what I did last year again. I went from zero for maybe 10 15 Twitter followers, and I got Jack on the ground through Twitter because of timing, and I guess maybe because I'm a pretty good schmoozer when I need to be. But it can be done, and anybody can do it, but you gotta put your full self into it. And
Yeah.
last year I was pulling 20-hour days marketing. I had the ability to. Now some people don't have that ability to, and there's ways to automate it that
Mhm.
can eat that burden. But again, a lot of them, to really get it solid, it costs money, and then that's more investment. It's a business, and there's many damn ways to do it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hard work.
It is a lot of work, and I tell people,
Yeah,
if you work a 9 to 5, like I work a 9 to 5, and I'm an engineer, so like
yeah.
today, oh, it was just so much crap. It was so much stuff for me to do, and I come home and I'm like, I really want to draw, but I have this interview with you, and then I gotta eat, and then by the time I'm like settled down and ready to draw, it's fucking 11 o'clock, and I gotta wake up the next day. So I know a
Do it
lot of
again.
artists feel the
Yeah.
grind. I honestly haven't really drawn on my tablet since last Friday. And I tell
Oh,
myself every day, like, I gotta come home and do some art. Gotta come home and do some art. I'm either like super exhausted, my brain is just done, or two, I
yeah.
have to do one of these interviews and get a video ready. Three, I have to send out emails for the next event. Like, when you're running a brand, it's not just about drawing.
Yes.
Like, you have
It's an
to
entrepreneurship
exactly
first,
you like
almost before
drawing.
the comics, which kind of
Exactly.
sucks.
It's literally you. It's literally you informing your audience like everything you need to do first before you even pick up a pencil
And
and draw.
growing the audience as the pencil's going.
Exactly.
But I mean, this is a perpetual hobby. It's never going to end, and it's never going to be finished
Yeah, I say
unless you're wanting to do it one run and done. And
yeah,
some people do that, and that's a way to do it if it's good enough for you.
I've
But if
heard
you
a
want to dig in, you're going to have to dig in.
yeah, and I heard a quote. I was like, if you treat your business like a hobby, it's gonna pay you like a hobby. If you treat your business like a
Yeah.
business, it's gonna pay you like a business. And I've been guilty. Like today, I haven't posted anything on my social media accounts because it was just like one of those days. Like I got other stuff that I need to focus on before I post, and then before you know it, like 8 hours has gone by, and this tumbleweed's going through my social media accounts, and I don't really, it's like one of the things where you feel guilty, like I probably should have posted today, but sometimes you just can't get to it because I'm only one person, and I can only do so much.
Oh yeah, no shit. And And again, thank you for taking some time and getting me on here. I really do
No
appreciate it.
problem. Like when I told you yesterday that I wouldn't be able to make the show, I was like, oh, I hope this doesn't become a habit to where I just like tell people, hey, can we reschedule? Because I've been very consistent on if we schedule a day, we do it. Like there's no
Yeah.
excuses from me. But yesterday was just I was wrecked yesterday, and I was
God,
like,
worse than today. That's
oh yeah,
that's
it was
rough, man.
yesterday was worse than today, and
Yeah.
I was like hoping like I hope Cody doesn't remember we have an interview today. I hope he's like I hope we can reschedule. That way it doesn't seem like it's my fault. So
Nah, it's fine.
I was slowly trying to get
I've
out of
had
it, but
those
I was like,
times too, dude. I've had those times too. Don't worry about it. And again, thank you for having me. And if you need to reschedule, most indie creators are just happy to have a platform
yes.
and with a kind guy and with I'm having fun. It's a good platform. It's just good to be able to get on it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also fun, like talking to like other like-minded people. Like, it's great to kind of me personally. Whenever I do or read a comic, I don't really care what it is, and I see something that's compelling as far as artwork and story goes. I go, "What did this person like? Like, how did you come up with this kind of concept?" Like, I'm reading it, and like usually, like the artwork is great. Like, what gets a lot of artists, obviously, I mean, a lot of readers is obviously the artwork. Like, if you see fantastic art, yeah, you have a reader who's looking at it, but if the story sucks and the concept is so generic, you're like, oh, this is stupid. I don't want to read this. But there are some artists out there who have like really compelling concept, and those are the people that I want to talk to. I want to talk to people like you. I want to talk to people who've come up with these amazing ideas and concepts, and just kind of pick their brain on like, how did you come up with this? Like I talked to a guy earlier in the week who made a superhero out of a spork. Like, have you
He's actually getting published by my publisher, Wicked
Yes.
Publishing. So yeah, no, Sporkman's an OG from back in my
I'm like,
Trick Line days in comics Twitter. I love the Spork. It's
I
actually still
go,
up on Indiegogo, folks. Go back it.
yeah, go
Only
back it
a couple
because
more
it's like
days. I
you're
know
never
it's
gonna
flex funding,
see.
but it is going to fund an amazing colorist. That Crafty Foxy's coloring in the books and trade
Uh-huh.
paperbacks. You'll get a poster, some great stuff. It's been rough out there. There's a gluttony of projects, so it's
Mhm.
hard to stand out without like what I did last year, which was constant bombardment. I was
Mhm.
relentless. Um,
Yeah,
but people have 9 to 5 jobs and they
yeah,
can't be relentless. And so
we have stuff to
if
do.
you find something you enjoy, please spread it. Even if you can't back it, show the
Mhm.
world this person's art. They
And this
they
is the
will appreciate it.
and this is the point of this show. It's not only for me to kind of understand like other creators, but it's to help other creators like get out there and like no, like my following isn't huge, but you do something long enough, it starts to catch fire. And I'm hoping like with this show, like I can help creators like you reach hundreds, maybe thousands of people out there looking to read something new because it's amazing that between Marvel and DC, like I don't even read that much Marvel and DC anymore because the stories are just they're not there for me anymore. They're not as compelling as like waiting a month to figure out what happens to Kid Flash or what happens to Mon-El or anything like that. It's not compelling to the point where I'm like, oh, it's Wednesday, comic book day. I see something on Twitter or Instagram of a story that has great artwork and has a pretty interesting concept, that's more appealing to me. And I see that a lot of indie creators are coming up, and not just creators, but the industry itself. Like they're
Yeah.
coming up as opposed to Marvel and DC. And I think that's fantastic because you have platforms like Kickstarter, like Indiegogo, and of course Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to promote yourself and to get these readers to come check out what it is you're doing. Like I'm glad I would I would gladly drop 20-25 bucks to get my hands on anybody's book who I think has a compelling story. And slowly but surely, this is how people are building their audiences. And I think it's fantastic that this is going. You don't have to go to a gatekeeper, like someone you have to query to, find an agent, then you got to find a publisher. Like that
And
that shit is yesterday. No one's
the
doing that anymore.
gatekeeping has been pretty old too. So you don't see a lot of new stuff
Yeah.
through it. Even when something is let through, it's not, it's nothing unique.
No, it's not. It's
It
all.
doesn't stand out, and so you get all these people who have no business in the comic book industry for their standards, not in terms of quality or anything, just from their ideological standards,
Yeah.
not even politics or religion or anything. I just mean overall, they're looking at this person and what have you done to earn being where I am.
Yeah.
um,
If I
but
can predict like
but
where
there's
your
so many
story's
people with,
going,
yeah, okay, yeah,
go ahead.
go for it.
I said if I can predict where your story's going, it's not for me. Like just thinking about that. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
My story is not ideological.
No, it's not. I can see with this head on a stake is not ideological at all.
What's the head on the stake symbolize to you?
Well, this dude died again, and usually, like in this sort of, I would guess, work, a lot of it is heavily censored because if you look at some of the mainstream stuff, they would censor stuff like this. And
Oh yeah, oh yeah. No, mine's mine would, if it was to be published, it would have to be under a independent label, which
mhm,
doesn't really care what they're putting out as long as it's not too hardcore. And even some like Phantasmagoria, that's
mhm.
what they go for. But it would have to be under an adult label, and that's what we kind of try to market it under. I don't use any curse words except for maybe hell,
Mhm.
and but there is gore because I wanted to show the reality of the body ending. It's
And
key.
that's what makes stories like this so authentic is that you have a sense of reality to the concept you're trying to convey. And with Marvel and DC, you don't get that anymore. Like I don't even think they show blood in Batman anymore. Like it's Batman. Like of all the DC characters, you should have blood
Yeah.
in Batman.
You should
Period.
be, yeah. I mean, he bloodies his fist. He's been doing it for
Yeah, of course.
80
Like
years. But yeah, it's hard. And even Vertigo, their direction was kind of odd recently. It's not. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for a lot of readers apparently. But it wasn't to their standard Hellblazer or their standard, uh, any of those ultra violence or anything that's like Hellblazer, which is spiritual demonic, and there's a lot of gore and things to convey those concepts as true as you can.
yeah.
But yeah, it's there is I can't think of the word. There's a lack, that'll have to do, a lack of strong voices coupled to artistic quality. There's
Hmm.
plenty of strong voice. Those voices aren't for everybody, but it's there.
Yeah.
But it's not being artistically conveyed to a way where 90% of people can look at it and be like, oh, I kind of get what they're doing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And either like it or not. It's being conveyed in a way where either you see what they're doing and you love it, or you're against the whole industry.
Yeah. Like and with
So
this with the indie comics industry, like there's no filter. Like
yes.
you can go ahead and draw whatever the hell you want, and it's either like you said, people like it or people don't. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really hurt you if people don't like it or people do like it. The idea is that you went for it and you were able to do it without anyone telling you no.
Yes, and that is such a gift.
Hmm.
It's a and you do have to continue. You have to earn it if you're going for a good result out of that gift.
Yep.
But you're not entitled to anything. But you have the ability to try, and
Yes.
that's just unbelievable. You could, if you are yourself an artist and you can letter and you can do all those things, then all you need is your own hard work and some art supplies, or if you do it digitally, some electricity and the item you're working
For sure. For
on.
sure. Yeah. I agree.
Are you familiar with Wanpool?
No.
Okay, well, Wanpool is another one, another
Oh,
vendor.
Wanpool. Yes. Yes. I know
Yes,
Wanpool. Mr.
yes,
Marvel.
Mr. Marvel.
That
Yes,
dude
Mr.
has
Marvel.
no filter on Twitter. Like when I was talking to him,
Yeah, he's a
like 3 times off Twitter, and I'm like, "You're my kind of guy."
yeah, no, he's great. I love Mr. Marvel. Point is, though, he made issue 1 of Wanpool out of his car.
Wow, really? I didn't know
Living
that.
out of his car, he made that on his tablet. It's a wonderful issue, and now they've made almost 13 grand on Indiegogo for issue 1 and issue 2.
He's
There
great
is an
because
entrepreneurial spirit out there that hasn't been there in the comic book industry almost ever before,
and
and you have to seize it.
he's one of my favorite people that I love seeing on Twitter because he is no filter. He says what he wants, and he's against all this like the SJWs and like the Comic Gates movement and all that. So like he doesn't like if he sees something that's like this is, I would say, unnecessary. Like I would say, like, okay, this is unnecessary. Dude, Wampool would take it to a whole nother level and just completely write paragraphs about why this is the stupidest shit he's ever heard and why everyone
Or
involved
one
should
of his favorite things to do is to take an SJW interpretation of a character. There was a Samus that was shaved head, flat chest, and such, and somebody's interpretation. That's fine, but he showed how to make her look a little bit, convey the femininity more than looking so androgynous.
uh-huh.
And man, that blew up like crazy on both sides. People hated it and
Oh
loving it.
man.
He's got that ability to walk that line that I don't do. I don't engage in the political end. I don't enjoy it, so I do my best to avoid it. I don't like seeing the bitterness and meanness in people. It's just not something.
Yeah, like that's
But
I mean,
but
but when it comes from him,
yeah,
it's funny. It's hilarious when it comes
that's the difference. There's an art. Once again, we were talking about that, conveying your idea through the art.
Yeah, exactly. Like
How he does it, and that makes it easier to in your, in my case, enjoy, or at least be able to understand.
mhm.
And,
Yeah,
and
he
yeah.
calls people out on their shit like all the time. Like last night, just before I'm like winding down to go to bed, I see him retweet something, and there's a tweet about a guy. And we're going to talk. We're actually having a panel tomorrow, me and some other artists, to talk about the Comic Gates movement. But this is kind of like adding fuel to that fire. Where Mr. Marvel was he retweeted and added a comment, and it was this guy bashing the Indiegogo platform.
Oh God,
Indiegogo,
yeah.
and he was saying that everybody who uses Indiegogo are scam artists and they don't like diversity and they're just taking your money, yada, yada, yada. And like, I had to chime in because I'm like, yo, back up. Like, we're all a part of the same community. Like, there shouldn't even be a divide between indie comic creators. Like, you shouldn't be online putting down people and calling them scam artists because that's not right. Like, what are you trying to accomplish here? I don't understand why this is even a thing.
It's an outrage culture that's kind of fueled by both sides. Once again, why I don't engage it.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it. I find divisions and especially groupings of people to really hurt the human experience when it's obviously individual on individual. So
I agree,
when people
100%.
don't interact that way, they're really doing themselves and the world a disservice.
Yeah.
But it's the I've really disconnected myself from the Comicsgate label. I really never took it on because of what I just said. That's been my belief since I was little.
Yeah.
I never understood why people do that to each other.
And
But it's I really hope at some point enough of the quiet folks, which is 90% of the comics community, actually stop listening to the angry voices.
yeah, and
Stop
like
engaging them, and then we'll have this big piece that everybody does want.
yeah, and it seems like I don't know what the story is, and that's why we're doing this show tomorrow with a panel of other artists. I don't know what the story is. I don't see what the big deal. You're saying that one side doesn't want diversity, another side does, and I'm like, well, people who are Comic Gates do a lot of diversity with their work, and the people who are not Comic Gates who see that diversity rip apart that diversity. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, what's the point? When I see people do shit like
It's
this,
too
like it makes me like want to join a Comic Gates because it's like, why are you tearing down other artists?
And that's the issue, and I don't know if it's the key to the survival. Is this the survival of the comics industry? Is this dichotomy that's forming where it's the mainstream versus indie, which has always been there, but the mainstream was never worried about indie, so they never really engaged it.
No,
They're just like, oh, you'll exist, but you'll never be us.
but what
So
I heard the beginning of the Comic Gates was like people who were in the mainstream, Marvel and DC, they weren't down with forcing this diversity on people. They were down to just keep things simple and, you know, adding a diversity in there naturally and not forcing people to read this stuff. And those people who were not down with Marvel and DC doing that left and started the whole in the Comic Gates movement, to where like, we're not going to sit here and force diversity. Like, again, I don't know what the whole comic.
There's a mythos.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a beginning.
I jumped in right when Jawbreakers hit, so at the start, really.
Yeah.
Not the start of Comicsgate, but the start of it being used as a platform to create comics.
Yeah, and I like.
It was. It took a long time to get to the state it's at now. There were not so many split factions within indie comics.
Mhm.
Was mainly indie comics and then the mainstream,
Yeah.
and there were consumers for both, which is how it should be.
Yeah.
And now it's been hit to a fever pitch from big personalities really, you know, hitting each other social media wise, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. It's a perpetual loop that can earn dollars. Now, do I know that's not the only thing they're doing? There's many CG creators, many who have just put out amazing work and just done it. They didn't farm this, and so it's hard for me to respect, again, a collective that's so poorly defined and has been weaponized.
Yeah, getting on Twitter is like walking into a wildfire. Like, you just look at all this flames and you're like, shit, what happened today? What's the topic today? Why is everyone so upset? I don't understand. Why am I here?
Yeah, people are always now they're looking for notice, and one of the good ways to get notice is to point out something that pisses people off.
Yeah, I even like I said before, like I'm just now starting off, like, in terms of promoting myself on social media. One day, I asked the question, which one is better, Kickstarter or Indiegogo? And I saw the Comic Gate hashtag there, and I was like, oh, that looks like it'll be a good hashtag. Click. Oh my God.
Oh my God!
So hard.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's cancer, but I'm here to make good comics. People enjoy my comics so far, and I damn well will keep making them, whatever environment we're in. And I hope to be a place where you can just come to see comics.
Exactly, and that's what it should be. Like, it should be exactly like that. If you are a certain comic creator and you have certain ideas, you shouldn't have to worry about other people coming to say it sucks. It goes back to what we were talking about before. We're all one big community, and literally everyone is a foundation for someone else in this community. And it just takes one person to just put someone down, especially someone who's new, and to kill that person.
Oh, so much. And we were talking about this 6-8 months ago when it wasn't even this bad. We you know, it was a thing that you were turning everybody off, both sides.
Yeah.
Just everybody off to comics, and comics are so wonderful. It's a very old art. Pictorials are a very old art, and we just married them to language, and it's man, it's a medium I'm proud to take part on, even with all of this, all of the extra, all of the BS, because it's wonderful. It is magic, and I'm happy to be able to take part.
Yeah. Everyone should be like that, but we're gonna put a pin in that topic because I don't want to say what I'm going to say, because we're having a panel tomorrow. We're going live at 7, so I don't know if you know Gilbert Deltres. He's the creator of Pistoletta and Layer.
Yes. I know him.
We're going to be going live with him. I think it's me and like 2 other artists who are going to be talking about the Comic Gates. And honestly, I'm tuning in because I have no idea what the deal is, and I hope these guys can shed light on the situation and I can learn a little bit of something. So
well, if you start hearing just one thing repeated, you're going to need to search out another side, because there are 2 sides to every goddamn thing. And this thing actually has about, oh God, was it 3, 4, about 5 or 6 sides? This damn thing.
It's like 6 factions. It's just like everyone wants to fight these days. Like, why does everyone want to fight? Why can't we all just like?
Everybody's scared.
Everyone is always scared, and I tell people, like, people are upset, they're scared, like they're always concerned with shit that's like out of their power. Oh, Trump's president. Like there's nothing you can do about that right now. It's president, you know, just
Well, if we kick up enough shit, we'll impeach him in his last
yeah,
month.
you know, just like you do that, you stuff like that in the
Uh,
comic book movement and stuff like that. Like there's some things that
well,
going
there
off
used to be
and
a division between your private life and your public life, and politics used to reside in the public life.
yeah, now everything
You
is
could
all
go
just
home, and if you didn't want to engage politics, you didn't have to have a public life. But
exactly.
nowadays, to succeed, especially in the arts, you have to have a public life. You have to have your brand. You have to have yourself as a brand. You have to. There's so much to it. It's so complex, and it can be so mean and cutthroat because money's involved. It
Yeah,
just it loses the allure of the art. So the
yeah,
main thing is, dive in, come to comics for the art. Do it for the art, and hopefully, if you're doing both of those things, you'll be doing it well, and you'll get compensated for it, and you can
agreed.
work with that.
Agreed. Like your income is based solely on the number of people you serve and how well you serve them. That's the law. That's 100% a law. I'm staring at it right now. I keep it right here on my wall.
Yep. There
All
you
right.
go.
So we kind of got off tangent. We're kind of running low on time, so I'm just
No
gonna
worries. I can shove a lot of information in a short time. Just
for
tell me
sure.
where to shove it.
All right, let me let me stop the share right here, real quick. You're planning on doing another Kickstarter for Jack Irons #2, is that correct?
Yeah, and Indiegogo, and not for number two, for number three. Number two launches hopefully at the end of this month.
Oh, okay. Well, I
Not
was
launches, not launches. Excuse me, goes out to backers at the end
go.
of this
Oh,
month.
okay. And
So
then
yeah, number three, and maybe it'll be number four, or it'll be number three and an Ironverse anthology. We've got a lot of things in the works. I've got 5 titles in the works, all with a set team. It just needs to roll out and get the funding.
got you.
So yeah, there's a lot going on. You can find Jack Iron Steel Cowboy #1 on Comixology, on Comic Central, on
Okay.
Drive Through Comics. I think there's another one. Um, um, Cactus Coyote again just launched yesterday for free to read. Like you just saw that issue of Jack. It's very similar, except it's a manga, so it reads right to left and has the manga kind of aesthetic. Um, I hope you guys are interested in that. We've got actually a Western comic in the work based on the IP with the same writer conceptor that's kind of my partner in Ironverse Comics, Cactus
Mhm.
Coyote. I'll just call him for now. And yeah, there's a lot coming down the line that I'm really excited for, and I'm hoping people could keep coming for our comics. It's
And
a
that's,
heck of a endeavor we're trying to do here, and
and that's what people should do. People should come back for the comics, for the story, for the
yeah,
allurement, for the characters. That's what causes people to sell. It's that emotional attachment to certain things, and that's what it's all about. So,
yeah.
we're gonna wrap it up here because I am hungry and I need another drink. But Cody, thank you for
Yeah.
coming on to the show. If you do, when you do run your Indiegogo or your campaign for issue #3, let me know because I would love to have you on the show. Maybe bring your other your team on and we can do a whole like live panel and stuff like that. Those are always
It'd be great. We'll see what we can work at that time. But absolutely, it's been a pleasure.
no
Thank you so
problem.
much for having me. I'm always happy to talk with some chill dudes about the art I absolutely adore.
I love it. And I will post all your links. So if you're watching this, which I hope you are, everyone listening in, I'm going to post all the links to Jack Irons #1. And when #2 becomes available for sale, I'll get that information from Cody and I will let everyone know where they can get their hands on that. And of course, Cody, you will keep me up to date with when you're running your 3rd Kickstarter or your Indiegogo for Jack Irons #3, right?
Oh, absolutely. No
Fantastic.
question. I'll be yelling it from the mountains to everybody who will listen.
Yeah, I keep everyone's open. Like my whole Twitter like dynamics has just completely changed. Like when I started this show, there's like people I want to be on the show, and I just started following all these people, and now I'm getting like a little sense. Like I'm starting to dive in on how the community actually operates, and it's fun to see all this stuff happening. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, Cody, thank you for coming on to the show. We had a great time, and I hope to get you back on here again pretty soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right, see you soon, buddy.
Take care, folks.
And that's it for this episode of Indie Choice Picks. I'm glad you guys tuned in. Hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you want to see more of my indie interviews, please like and subscribe to the channel. I upload videos every Wednesday and Sunday. So Let me know if you are an indie artist and you are looking for a little bit of exposure. All you got to do is find me on Twitter, heroic_studios, or you can find me on Instagram, Will at Heroic Studios. Send me a DM if you're running a campaign such as an Indiegogo or Kickstarter. Let me take a look at it. If you're about to, still give me some information, and I would love to have anybody on the show. So until next time, you guys, take a good rest. I'm going to be off the next week, but I will still bring you guys great content coming up. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon. Deuces.